did you work on this score? Did you read the novel first, the storybook, looked at the pictures first and started composing, or did you just start it like the new morning?
Now I received a script from Roman and Robert Ben Moussa, his producers, sometime in spring last year, in 2009, and I mean I could even have skipped reading the script, because when I saw the cover of the script saying The Ghost, screenplay by Robert Harris and Roman Polanski, a film by Roman Polanski, I was signed already. I had already said yes. So then I read the script, which was really gripping and smart and really, really fantastic, and I called to accept immediately. Then I waited until the movie was shot and the editing finished, all kind of finished. The first cut, first long version of the film, and Roman showed it to me. I think that was in June or July, and I think I went back home and found the first musical idea that I kept kind of secret until the movie would get a shorter shape, a better shape. I'm always a bit reluctant in being too presumptuous that what I write is perfect until I've really tried it, thrown it to the picture to really experience the gluing process, which is very important. Music has to glue to really embrace, really interwoven with the images, and it's only when you have a copy and you've had some time to experiment that you can really say, yeah, it's working.
So Ghostwriter is not an action movie, it's kind of thriller with some action scenes. On the other hand, you compose a lot for romantic novels, for romantic movies. You did action with Fargo, as I remember.
No, not Fargo, no. Firewall. Yep. There was Firewall, there was Golden Compass, which is an epic movie. There was Hostage, also, that's even more action in Hostage, by Florent Siri. And some other French movies like Largo Winch or Need a Gap, a few. I did a few action movies, but yeah, it's not an action movie; it's a thriller. There's some moments of acceleration, but there's never battles and guns and which is actually typical from Roman Polanski's movies. There's never a crude violence. Or like an action movie would do, with fist fights, and it's not the way Roman apprehends cinema. In Chinatown, there's almost no blood. There's one scene which actually Roman himself delivers with cutting J.J. Gitty's nose with his knife. But aside from that, there's no violence. The violence is always more intellectual, more subliminal. And that's the strength of Roman's cinema.
What would you think is more interesting for the composer, the thriller themes or the romantic themes?
In general, in movies?
In general, for you, let's say for you, prefer to do more romantic?
No, I think if I would do only romantic movies or period movies or thrillers, I would be bored. That's why if you have a look at my filmography, you see that I jump immediately from one subject to another, so I don't get not only bored, but I don't get lazy. And on a kind of freeway speed locker, when you stay at 130 on your speed sensor, I like to change of speed, change of energy, and challenging myself. If I don't do that, I don't challenge myself, and if I don't challenge myself, I don't evolve. My craft doesn't evolve.
But doesn't the film industry challenge you a lot? Because when I look at the movies coming out into the cinemas, There's a lot of Alexandre Desplat as a score writer, as a composer of the movie. You seem to be very, very busy.
Alexandre Desplat with an S. We should say the S. Desplat.
Desplat.
Yeah. Well, yes, but the thing is that I've always worked a lot. Always. Could it be in theater, in TV, in movies? I've always written a lot of music. I don't have the feeling that I'm working more now. It's just that I'm offered more good movies with great directors, so they're exposed and you see them. And so if you look at my filmography, you'd see movies that make that don't ring any bell because nobody saw them.
They come on DVD.
Maybe some did not even get a release.
Just was released in Germany.
Which one?
I just know the German.
Never mind. But now that I work with Ang Lee or Stephen Frears or Jacques Audiard, that was already for a while, but Roman Polanski, yes, my name suddenly is everywhere. But it's just because people look at these posters because they are really exposed. But I've done many movies that nobody noticed the music because the movie was not exposed.
But at least you became the World Soundtrack Award winner last year.
That's true. I've become.
At least.
Yeah,
I was waiting the year before and the year before because I think you've been nominated every year.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been lucky to be nominated in many places like the Golden Globes and the Oscars and the World Soundtrack Awards. Yes, but I guess also that I've improved. Maybe that's why I've improved in the last 10 years a lot. My craft and I've just become better. Like I'm a bit like wine, like French wine. I need time to grow.
Grand Cru.
Oui, voilà. Grand Cru that can stay in a cellar for a while, which I do. I mean, I'm in my studio like in a cellar, secluded, writing and in the dark, and the music goes out like this. And
how did it all begin? I mean, you didn't go studying composing, saying, I want to become a famous film composer. Or was it that way?
Well, funny enough, it was that way. I never wanted to be something else than a film composer.
Never been a rock star?
No.
To be a rock star?
No. Oh, no.
Chansonnier, something like that?
No. I wanted to be a flutist when I was a teenager. Because I was playing flute and it became my main instrument. I became a virtuoso in flute. But it was slowly becoming to me very limited in terms of possibilities, musical options. And I started wanting to play other instruments, which I did actually. I played saxophone, I played tuba. In the past I had played already piano and trumpet. And my flute teacher was always yelling at me because my lips were ruined by all these instruments. So I stopped and I focused on flute and my studies in flute. But I was already hooked by cinema, and I was going to the cinema all the time and watching films and listening to the music. And I started collecting movie soundtracks. My background being more classical and jazz, soundtracks were the perfect match of all that. And I always had a very large interest in orchestral music, more than piano music, for example, by its own, except for jazz. But I was really into the sound of the orchestra. That's the thing that was making me vibrate. And soundtracks are perfect for that. So by combining my two passions, passion for orchestra and passion for music, for cinema, I just naturally became a film composer. But I never dreamed of becoming a concert composer or an opera composer or a pop star. No, that was never my goal.
As you said, you wanted always to become a film composer. Who was it who inspired you? People like Mancini or Bernstein, who invented jazz into the film scores as well?
Of course, Mancini and Elmer Bernstein and Alex North always tried to capture some jazz influences. For the orchestra, of course, all the great Waxman, Goldsmith, Williams, which I think are my three main influence, aside from Bernard Herrmann, who's maybe on top of all of them. And in Europe, of course, Delerue, Maurice Jarre, and Nino Rota. there were the three. We could have mentioned Michel Legrand, of course, in the jazz kind of mixture of symphonic and jazz. And there were fantastic musicians, fantastic melody makers, fantastic orchestrators, and that's where the influences come from all these gentlemen, but also from Ravel and Debussy and Bartók and Stravinsky and of many jazzmen, Miles Davis, Bill Evans, Coltrane, Adderley, and Duke Ellington.
People say that with Hubbard and Metropolis, which was shown here and played as well within orchestra, film music really started. But from these days on, it really hasn't changed, because most of the film composers stick to this neo-romanticism. Do you say it's the same, or do you think it has changed from Hubbard's?
I think in the last 10 to 20 years, the way the storytelling in movies and the aesthetic has changed a lot because of many reasons. Because we have evolved, human beings have evolved, the aesthetics have evolved, and also the techniques have evolved. Like the sound in cinemas is not anymore in mono, but in stereo and 5.1 or THX, whatever you want to use. And all these things have brought new ideas, of course, electronics, and it's made the field. It has made the field of possibilities wider for composers to explore, I think. And you couldn't today use Vertigo as a score; it would be too much, too explicit. You couldn't use a Steiner score; it would be too explicit too, I think, or parodic in a way, almost funny. Because the way, the emotions were spoken or told in the 40s were not the same. We didn't have the same sensitivities. War was not over, and Vietnam had not occurred, and the end of the 60s revolution was not yet there. So many things that human beings have moved forward. So I think that unfortunately there's still a lot of this romantic, very end of the 19th century influence in many of the scores that are here. But that's not only the fault of the composers, it's also the fault of the directors, the producers, and the audience who enjoy it. People are slow. They're slow to evolve. I still know many friends of mine, they can't listen to the Rite of Spring of Stravinsky, and it was in 1913. I can play L'Ascension of Olivier Messiaen to friends, 1937, and they can't even bear it. So it's almost a century over, and we're still struggling to get the ears of the people to the audience to get better. But I must say, there's I have a great hope that the radios would start again to play instrumental music. I mean, the wide audience radios, not the very niche radio like the one I listen to. France Musique, France Culture, FIP in France, or classic radio in England. All these things that have a limited, or KUSC in Los Angeles, they have a limited audience. What you hear mainly is pop music everywhere, and even in some of these classical radios you mainly hear music of the 19th century. They don't dare going into the 20th century. Even I was censored in French radio when I proposed. I offered a program to France Inter for a show to play music only of the 20th century, and I received a phone call saying, our audience can't bear it, can't stand that. And I said, okay, I'm not coming. It's just incredible, So there's a laziness and a conservatism also in the way the audience approaches the film music, which makes it more secure and more safer for producers or directors to use a more classical score.
But wouldn't that be the ideal thing to change the listening ideals of the people.
You're absolutely right, and there's a great pedagogic opportunity there. And I was really, really inspired by John Williams, because if you listen carefully to John Williams in Star Wars, kids who were 12, 15 at the time, or 10, would listen to Stravinsky-like, Prokofiev-like music, and they would enjoy it. They loved it. But if you had offered them to listen to a Prokofiev symphony or to Les Noces or name it from Stravinsky, they would have said, "Oh no, I can't listen to that." And I have friends who've come towards classical music just by listening movie soundtracks. So there's a great pedagogic influence, I think, that we could have.
Would you say there is a European school of score writing and an American school?
Yes,
although the American is influenced by Europeans.
And we are influenced by Americans most. Yeah, of course.
Do you think there is?
Yes, there is a difference. There is a difference since the Nouvelle Vague, since maybe even Maurice Jaubert and the end, just before the war, late 30s, and then the Nouvelle Vague took over that. In trying not to follow the action, that the music creates another dimension, another layer of dramaturgy, and not just a paraphrase of what the film is showing. And Delru, Jarre, Duhamel, all these great artists had worked in the theater a lot, which gives you a sense of dramaturgy and a more intellectual approach, and not just intuitive approach of what a film is giving you. I think the combination of both an intellectual concept and an intuitive approach is crucial. I always say that to a phrase that I stole from Tadao Ando, which is a great Japanese architect that I cherish. And Tadao Ando says that to have a good architecture, and there's great similarities between music and architecture, you have to have a good balance of function and fiction. When there's too much fiction in the music that you deliver for a film, it's not connected to the story, to the storyline, to the film itself. There's too much function, it's boring, it's too connected to the film. So you have to find the right balance of, because some films need function, they're coding for code or for function, for efficiency. And you have to find I always try to find the right balance between both, to be imaginative, find a world of poetry, of dreamlike fantasy, and some efficiency in functioning.
In the beginning you said the music has to intertwine with the pictures. Aren't you trying to tell the story with your music on a meta level?
Yes, I think the subtext that the music is playing is always the best way to do it. If I can bring out to the audience the inner thoughts, the unspoken emotions of the character or of the storyline, I've made my day. I've realized what I was hoping to, and that's of course something that you do very closely with the director, close to his aesthetics and his desires. I think that's what music has to do. It has to show the invisible.
So you made a lot of days.
I mean,
you made a lot of your days.
I try each time I try that. Yes, I think that's the challenge, the best challenge.
I'm embarrassed as a composer to be one of the last being shown and when the movie ends and finishes, you see first the actors, you see the directors, and at the very, very last, there's the composer.
No, it's not at the very, very last, because in the opening credits we're there in good place. Sometimes. Well, my agents make sure that I am now. But let's be very. It's a collective work of art, because I think movies is art, even though I never hear people say, because it used to be called the seventh art, the septième art, and I don't hear anyone saying that anymore. I really, truly consider it as the septième art, and it's a collective work of art. It's not just me and myself, so and for the audience. Let's face it, it's the name of the movie, the visual, and then the name of the actors, the name of the director, and then the collaborators. And I'm just one of the collaborators. I'm a creator, yeah, great, but it's fair enough that I'm where I stand. No, what comes at the very end of the end roller is the credits of the musicians, which I think, yes, could be a bit earlier, and not just with
After the Grid Boy or something.
or the car drivers. Yes, I think because they are artists. You know, all these fantastic players that record for me, they would deserve, yes, a bit more of attention. It would be good to bring them up a little bit, but I don't know how you deal with that. I should ask directors to do that maybe next time.
One last question before next time. The Berlin Talent Campus. Were you satisfied with the outcome, or did you see some new genius coming out, talents, some real talents?
Yes, I must say that I saw there were 3 composers, film composers, who were competing for this award, and yes, I've been. It's always very fruitful for me to listen to other composers' work. Could it be masters that I transcribe myself for a string quartet, because I love going through their own world of imagination, because it's different from mine, and the technique is different from mine. Their orchestration obsessions are different. So by watching young composers with their grace, sometimes their issues, their carence, their defaults, you know, it gives me keys, and I'm always excited in giving away advice. Not advice, but keys to other doors, or just flashes of light that might not have seen at the end of the tunnel. Watch, maybe there's this you can try. Maybe it works, maybe it does not, but you can try. At least you can experiment. Patrice Chéreau said when he was working on The Ring that when he would find an idea for his mise en scène, he would leave it on the side. Even though he thought it was good, he would try another one, and then another one, and another one, until maybe he comes back to the original point. But coming back to this original point is fed by all this long journey that he's been through, with ideas and things that consolidate his first idea. And I think that's crucial.
Thank you very much. I would like to talk much longer to you.
Some other time. I'll come
I
back.
hope so. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.